Hello and welcome everyone to LCS Academy. My name, Eric Desrix-Beltran. Joining me, of course, it is Joshua Joshi Howard. Academy games today, brother. Are you ready for it?
Of course I'm ready for it. Heat's gone down here in Seattle. I no longer am chilling in 106-degree weather with no air conditioning. I think we're ready for some good games that might be able to bring up the heat just as hot.
Yeah, lots of hot heat prepared for us here today. Hot heat sounds very, very redundant, but I live in California. That's all I experience, and
That's what we
I'm
got.
personally excited for the game. I'm excited for the games that we have every day because really we're hitting the middle of the road. This is where things get very, very crucial. Like every win starts to matter that much more as we get closer to playoffs.
True, and it's been interesting to watch the teams that have started to separate themselves from the pack over the past half of the split. Remember, most of the teams have played each other at least once at this point, but there are some teams that we still haven't seen go head-to-head, and we have been seeing some clear separation from teams like 100 Thieves and FlyQuest and Team Liquid, who all have at least 4 wins, whereas beyond that, even in 4th place, Evil Geniuses currently only has 2 clean sweeps of the series.
Yeah, so, definitely lots at stake here. Before we really do get into too much of what's going on today, we got to break down the Samsung Fast 5 and take a look at what's been happening these last couple of weeks.
Yeah, as we take a look at this, well, that's not that. This is going to be for something else we're going to be doing. We are going to be looking at the schedule that we got going on today. CLG versus 100 Thieves is going to be our first game starting momentarily. And then we have Evil Geniuses FlyQuest, and we'll round it out with Cloud9 versus Team Liquid. And I expect we actually have some pretty banger games going on today. The second and third ones actually going to be the top half of the standings going up against each other.
Yeah, there's a lot of what I'm loving with what we're going to see today because, especially with matches like Team Liquid versus Cloud9, these are ones that have major implications towards how playoffs is going to shape off in the future. Let's get into some of what's happened last week, though, to really break down what's happening. This time, no Samsung Fast 5. We're just getting into the replays.
Yeah, it's really cool to see how all of these teams have been playing. We've been seeing a lot of movement from a bunch of different teams. And TSM, they were trying to take over last week, and, they were looking pretty good overall. He's coming in with the Lee Sin mid lane, something we haven't necessarily seen as much from Sword, and they're able to find a bunch of these wins going up against teams like EG. And then, it's been, as we've been expecting, a lot of the teams that we were expecting to be quite good are continuing to be quite strong. But the team you see on your screen, despite the fact that Darshan had his 1v5 pentakill a few weeks ago, this team has been consistently in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, Cloud9 was the team that won, at least when we look at in terms of spring. Now just kind of falling behind with what's been going on. Looking at the Golden Guardians versus Immortals game, this was an interesting one to see fly through because ultimately Golden Guardians are able to net some wins at the end of this.
It's really important for them to start getting a couple of these wins as well, all right? We're looking at Golden Guardians being towards the bottom of the standings, currently in 9th place because they haven't been able to secure as many victories. I mean, at least they have the one win that they were able to grab not that long ago up against, oh my gosh, who did they win against? Can't even come to mind at this point.
They only have a victory, at least a 2-0 sweep against Immortals right now.
Oh, yeah, that's who it is. And it's been interesting, right? Because Immortals is another of these teams that has been kind of struggling throughout this series as we switch over from, the best of ones to the 2-game series. Because you have to show an adaptability, and you always have to play on both sides of the map, which is something that hasn't been true for basically most of the League of Legends Academy history.
Yeah, and looking at the standings now, it is very rough for a lot of these teams. You can very clearly see who the top 3 teams are. Looking at 100 Thieves, FlyQuest, and Team Liquid. At the bottom, though, it is very, very caustic. There's a lot of teams who, for one case, Evil Geniuses, you have a case of a team that has 0 defeats, but a whole load of ties, and ties don't exactly get you towards that top 3. We need to see a lot of performances. We need to start seeing them now from these bottom of the end teams.
Well, I mean, you say that, right, but it is good enough to get them 4th, and you just need to get top 6 in order to make it towards the playoffs. And as we already touched a little bit on what we already saw, we're going to be seeing a lot more transitioning. But our first match today is going to be top of the table versus the bottom of the table. We have 100 Thieves Academy taking on CLG, and 100 Thieves, they've been looking really, really strong throughout summer, whereas they were doing all right during all of spring. Now they've really stepped it up and are kind of the clear favorite at this point.
Yeah, 100 Thieves have been looking absolutely spectacular as of lately. And I mean, a lot of this comes from the way they work their developmental. Tenacity, Kenvi, Poom, they've all been part of the 100 Thieves Next, I guess, alumni is what we'll go for here. And of course, they do have a lot of experienced players in Luger and Ryoma. But you do have to take a look across the Rift. CLG, this has been a very shaky team, but they've also been a team that works well when they're in the underdog position. We saw it with Last Chance qualifiers, where they just came out in first place. We saw it against their match with Cloud9 earlier in the season. They can make a comeback. They are the comeback kids.
And when we say that, we have seen them take down a couple of games from some of our other decent teams, right? They've taken games off of Cloud9, Evil Geniuses, and Immortals, who are at 5th, 4th, and 7th currently in the standing. So we know that they can kind of hold a candle to some of the teams that we were initially expecting to be quite good, but they are still looking for this first win. And unfortunately, Eric, I mean, last time I was a naysayer, they took a game off of Cloud9, but this time I have to say that based on recent results, this one might be even more difficult.
Yeah, I mean, if we are looking at recent results, it's been a while since CLG have picked up a victory. The week before, week number 3, they were able to go 1-1 with Evil Geniuses, but since then, it's been 0-2, 0-2, Team Liquid, TSM. CLG, things are not looking too up for them, and they have a very hard competitor standing in front of them.
So let's take a look a little bit on how we're expecting some of these individual matchups to go, because there's a reason 100 Thieves have been dominant throughout the entire split, where CLG are looking to try and bring things up. In the first place, I kind of want to highlight immediately is this top lane. And historically, I've been fairly critical of Tenacity as one of these big flippers, but for whatever reason, he's consistently been coming up heads throughout all of summer, and, you know, maybe he's getting exceedingly lucky, but at some point, even the naysayers like me have to attribute this to the fact that he's become so much more consistent in his role, whereas Tien still going for a lot of these big plays. He's one of the bright spots of CLG, but sometimes he overextends, and players like Tenacity, as they become more consistent, are more easily able to punish that.
And not just that as well. I mean, you got to think about the synergy. Kenvi and Tenacity have been playing together for quite a while now. We talked about it already with the 100 Thieves Next roster. Moving on to the bottom lane, I do want to look at the bottom lane for 100 Thieves Academy, because Luger and Poom have been phenomenally consistent. Luger has been a great pickup for this 100 Thieves Academy roster.
Yeah, it's been really exciting to watch how Luger has been integrating into the team overall, right? He initially came in during spring, and a lot of people were looking at him as like, how is this guy going to do? And he very quickly impressed a lot of people simply with his ability to play exceedingly controlled and just really understand his ability to play team fights. He recognizes he's not necessarily going to be getting a ton of attention early on in the game from Kenvi, but he's able to play with the resources that he's given, and he looks really fantastic every single time as we march later and later into the game. And you know, we have to pride him for this on the fact that he's doing this largely by himself. Poom isn't the heaviest roamer in Academy, but he does like moving around rather heavily with Kenvi.
I think if we have to look at the other side of the rift and try and find some points of light outside of the end, you do kind of get it with Kill. Kill has a sense of unpredictability that's hard for a lot of teams to manage with. He's been making the Fiddlesticks pick more and more popular as time goes on. I don't know if you know too much about him, but he used to be Frosty Nomad back in the day. We remember all the Reigns of Terror he did with Nunu. But his unpredictability has been hard for a lot of these teams to really catch up with, because sometimes he can be very, very feast, sometimes he can be incredibly famine.
And you have to remember, yesterday was his birthday. He just turned 20, so congratulations to him. He's going to be feeling good as he comes onto the Rift today. We'll see if he's going to be feeling good enough to take down Kenvi, but as you touched on, he has been playing some of these other characters like the Fiddlesticks that we've already highlighted, and I'm excited to see what he's going to be able to do with this, because it is a kind of thing where he's substituted off for a couple of different teams. He had a brief opportunity to play with one of the collegiate teams, and he made them look really, really good. We know this guy has opportunities to play really aggressively, but again, we have to compare it to 100 Thieves, who we also know plays aggressively and has been able to execute on it a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, 100 Thieves, you're talking about execution. They have been getting it much more consistently as of lately. And I think that speaks a lot to the developmental process of the way 100 Thieves have been forming their organization. You know, you go through 100 Thieves Next into 100 Thieves Academy, and then hopefully you make it into the LCS. And it's been really, really interesting watching these last year from 2020 all the way till now, just how that development has been going and how they've been pushing. But now it's time to get into draft. 100 Thieves Academy versus CLG Academy. We're now underway.
And we already got the Fiddlesticks taken off the table. We touched on
darn
being one of Keel's pocket picks that we often see, but, you know, gotta remove it. Nocturne and Gwen also taken off. All of these are very powerful, very common picks for both. I mean, for every roster, really, at this point. And we'll see what the rest of the game wants to shape out as. I mean, junglers have been really dominant in terms of pick priority for the past several patches, and I'm expecting to see a couple more of them prioritized here in the next couple of picks and bans.
I mean, we've been seeing the Lee Sin picked up a lot just because it has so much flexibility as to what lane it can go. Rumble has been a very, very prominent pick to grab. What else can you really say? 100 Thieves, of course, really enjoy that pick. So, yeah, I do expect a jungler-focused, flex-focused type of draft as Tristana gets taken off the map.
A little bit interesting, right? We've been looking at these triple flex in the top mid jungle coming out rather consistently for a lot of different teams, and Tristana, while she can flex between two of those positions, can't really flex into the jungle unless you're, you know, like the insane arcane mad magical over on the secondary stream. It's going to be a little bit tough. I know one of my producer friends enjoys playing it and just saying it is ranged Lee Sin. Because you just jump in, you kick somebody back, and you're like, oh god, please don't kill me. But with all of this said, we're currently looking at the fact that Viego, one of the most powerful champions of the patch, is still available, but it will be giving over a bunch of different opportunities to CLG to kind of adapt to it and pick a very different strategy.
As we said, Viego's available, Rumble's available, Lee Sin is available, Gwen is also not available because she got banned first pick. Excuse me on that one, but Viego gets locked in for 100 Thieves Academy. CLG Academy, they're going to go straight to the Ziggs. They've been pulling this a lot in the bot lane with Katsuri.
And this is something that has gotten so much more powerful ever since it got the ultimate change, right? The increased missile speed on the mid and long range ultimates means that you have so much more consistency during these team fights in trying to hit the back line. It just means that you don't necessarily need a second diver to go in with, say, a Xinja or a Diana to try and kill the ADC. You just lob a bomb at them, suddenly they're missing 800 HP, and with everything that's currently been picked up, we're seeing that you have a number of targets that are going to be grouping on top of each other to make all of Ziggs damage that much more potent.
This is a scary draft coming out from 100 Thieves Academy already. Viego, Diana, and Lucian picked up. These are skirmishers. These are people who like to fight. And CLG should be ready for a fight very early on, given the way this is going. Just hovering Volibear for the time being.
Wouldn't be surprised if this does end up getting locked in. It is going to be grabbed for CLG, and we got to identify where we're at right now, right? We have Viego, Diana, Lucian for 100 Thieves, and Ziggs, Nautilus, Volibear for CLG. And I have to say, at this point in the draft, I like the power that 100 Thieves have picked for themselves. They're not the most exciting team fight in the world, but they do have some wombo combo tools between Diana and whatever else they want to be picking towards the rest of it. But they are going to be super, super scary in all of these early game skirmishes, as well as their ability to split push later on in the game. Whereas CLG, they have Ziggs and a couple frontliners, but they're not necessarily going to be having the same kind of mobility. They're a bit more bulky, they're a bit harder to move around the map when we compare them to 100 Thieves.
I mean, the big thing for CLG Academy's comp is going to be the team fights, at least early on in this, and the way they siege up. 100 Thieves Academy, they just want the skirmish so far in the draft. Gnar taken away, Varus going to be taken away as well. CLG now focusing towards the ADC pool, while 100 Thieves start focusing on that top lane pool.
I think it's really important for CLG to identify the fact that 100 Thieves have not really picked themselves any primary engage. Diana can kind of do it as a secondary engage tool, but is typically better at coming in once the fight has already started, and you have people starting to group up on top of each other. Whereas CLG, they have the Nautilus that is going to be very flexible in its ability to just go in very aggressively, but also peel. So I'm expecting, as we start going towards the rest of the draft, CLG is going to be very wary of things like the Leona. I mean, you already have Diana and Leona coming out as a couple in the lore. Also a very potent couple here in the Rift, where you have opportunities to just pick one person, remove them from the map, as well as get fight started for the rest of the team.
Now CLG looking for their next pick. Hovering the Wukong, and it is going to be very, very team fight oriented. You have a very solid front line out of CLG. My biggest question is how fast can you get this front line online? Because 100 Thieves are going to be going very quickly out of the gates.
It's going to be a little bit difficult. I'm also kind of wondering if Tian's going to be going with the Flash or Ignite as a secondary summoner spell, but we'll get back to that here in a couple of minutes. The Jinx is a little bit surprising to me. It is something that Luger is very good at, and we are definitely moving again towards what I call a threat overload composition. You can't hit the Jinx if you have too many other things that you're worried about. In this case, the Viego, Diana, and Lucian, very, very aggressive coming out for 100 Thieves, where I look at it right now, and I kind of say, like, I really like this comp. I think it's very strong, but it's hard to play this kind of style, right? Everybody needs to be on point individually. You're not necessarily coordinating super heavily because you're making all these small micro decisions back and forth, whereas CLG, rather simple. You know, you get a fight started, you got a very clear backline that you're playing to with the Ziggs and the Victor, and the big question is going to be, are 100 Thieves going to be able to play this? Do they have the confidence to actually lock down targets and find these early leads so they can just roll over CLG?
My biggest worry about CLG is the setup. It takes quite a bit of map positioning for them to get the team fight the way they want to, for them to get the siege the way they want to, without walking into the challenges that is 100 Thieves Academy's composition. We're talking a mid-game spiking composition once you have the Lucian in the mid lane as well as the Diana. There are so many threats. You were talking about it. Threat overload really is what we're seeing from 100 Thieves Academy. And overall, I like it just because it plays to the style that we've seen Kenvi do, that we've seen Tenacity do. They do love these skirmishy, scrappy styles that, you know, kind of make your head scratch on where the macro is, but it is solid. It is a solid draft coming out of 100 Thieves Academy, but it is an aggressive one that has a very clear condition and it needs to meet it in the mid game.
Yeah, I really want to highlight something that I often talk about when we look at these kind of compositions and how they're going to be interacting around dragons and barons, because CLG Academy, typically we look at compositions like this and say they really want to be at objectives first, and this is still true. They still want to be at the objective first, but the thing is, they're not actually as worried about 100 Thieves being at the objective before them, because there's not actually that much, like, engaged. If you walk in as a team, you're not going to be hit by that much AoE outside of the Glacial Fissure and Diana's ultimate, whereas CLG, they have a lot of skill shots. You can just chuck bombs and lasers into every bush and just say, like, are they there? No? Okay, we don't have vision, but now as long as our frontline walks in first, it's going to be rather easy for them to come in a little bit later. And that's one of the things that I'm going to be looking at CLG is, like, one, do they get there first? And two, how confidently are they going to be willing to check later on? As we already jump in, we're 40 seconds into the game.
Oh man, CLG versus 100 Thieves Academy. CLG desperate for that first win. 100 Thieves trying to hold control onto that very first place spot.
Well, nothing super exciting happening immediately. I'm noticing that despite the fact that there was a little bit of damage trading back and forth, it is still everybody has access to all of their summoners, and something that's very interesting to me and something that has kind of fallen out of favor in a lot of ways is the fact that there are 6 teleports on the map. You have both the AD carries in Luger and Katsuri picking up the teleport because they're expecting there's not going to be a whole lot of kill pressure down here on the bottom side, and they both just want to make sure that their AD carries miss absolutely no farm as they start moving towards the later parts of the game. And I feel like that probably benefits the Jinx a little bit more because they don't have skill shots that they need to land, right? Most of Zig's damage comes from skill shots, whereas you can't dodge auto attacks, and so there's more consistent kill threat coming out from Luger than from Katsuri, especially before both of them have access to ultimate.
My biggest thing that I want to focus on is going to be the bot lane for CLG and how they play that. Because if you do end up in situations where you get the shove and you decide to go for the roam, actually lots of damage coming in this trade. And there's bite going to be pop, get some in. Damage going all over the place right now. These lanes are already fighting it off, but getting back to the point real quick, if you decide to roam after doing your damage as the Ziggs over on the bot side, then it does buy Luger a lot of time to meet his win condition to farm up as much as he can. Because that is the late game contingency right there, having Luger on that Jinx.
Yep. Also, really just want to highlight this word once again as we go back to Ryoma on the screen. We'll check back in the bot lane relatively soon, noticing that Luger does have an early advantage. But Ryoma, we know it. Whenever you have this ability to push early on in the game, when you have an aggressive lane like the Lucian into the Victor, you typically want to push it out and get that ward onto the Raptors around the 2-minute and 30-second mark, because it'll tell you a lot about where the enemy jungle is pathing. At this point, he saw that Volibear had already had 12 CS being on the bottom side of the map, now clearing the Raptors, and now they know that he is either on Krugs or looking to go up into the top lane in order to mess around with Tenacity. They don't know which one it is, but they know it has to be one of those two options.
And it looks like he's about to meet Kenvi in the jungle. Is he going to go for it? Nope. Not even willing to contest it. There's going to be no jungle showdown right now. Instead, Heel's going to be happy going for the scuttle. It does give Kenvi enough information to know that he needs to go for the bottom scuttle if he doesn't want to get doubled.
True, and we're noticing teleports coming out from both of the mid laners here in just a moment, Ryoma and RJS, with basically even CS, backing away and going back towards the mid lane. They want to make sure that they can maintain some kind of pressure here as Ryoma grabs himself Doran's Blade and RJS picks up the tier, but it does mean that with all this, we are going to see Diana pick up the bottom scuttle.
Here we go, fight again in the bot side, just skirmishing back and forth. Able to grab that scuttle though, as you said, Kenvi will take it and take his recall, not looking for any early ganks, not any early positioning. Just wants to get that itemization very, very early, getting control wards and an amplifying tome. Back some both junglers coming in now.
Yeah. I want to talk about this bottom lane a little bit more, Eric. Typically, as Ziggs, so I used to be a big Ziggs player, mostly in the mid lane. Something that you got to keep in mind is at level 1 through about level 6, I want to say, provided you don't have items, it takes 3 Qs in order to kill the caster minions. Okay, so you have a very clear idea of how easily you're going to be able to actually clear out a lot of these minions, and typically you can use this in a Ziggs lane in order to get a lot of priority in the lanes. You see a bit more trading, but because they opt to take the teleport, they're not actually able to do this safely. You typically want to be pushing it in order to take down these plates, but because he doesn't have a combat summoner, he has a teleport instead, he has to play a little bit more defensively and allow it to get pushed back into him. And we'll see if that affects the rest of the map, because having priority and the extra tempo that comes along with it means that Luger and Puma might be able to rotate a bit more proactively than the Ziggs and Nautilus coming up in the next couple of minutes.
Curious to see if that'll be true. Especially right now with the freeze that you're seeing from Luger and Poom, just holding that as long as you can to get that Jinx scaling going. It is going to be kind of hard for Katsuri and Hooks to continue the momentum, continue pushing forward. Ultimately, time will tell with that on how that really does shape up. As
see,
right away, they're just swinging at it.
There's the difference, right? Imagine if that Q lands from Katsuri, suddenly it's a winning trade, but Luger is able to dodge all of it. League of Legends is an interesting game because you can trade tempo very directly for golden experience, right? We're seeing that Luger, he didn't quite get the full-on freeze, but he's still using it in order to create space against Katsuri and trade this early back that he was able to get with Poom in order to deny about half a wave coming out of Katsuri.
Here comes the gank, the initiation over on the top side, looking to get Tenacity. Can't get any closer as Kill. Tenacity will escape with 200 health.
And he's going to trade 1 flash for 2, so overall, 100 Thieves, despite the fact that no kills have come through, they are currently looking at about a 400 or 500 gold lead, just off the fact that they have been better laners thus far. And this is going to be really important as we start looking at the next couple of minutes, as we start getting first components, first items coming through. They're going to be hitting all these power spikes a little bit earlier than their opponents, and 100 Thieves have to be very happy with their position at the moment.
You know, what kind of makes me sad about that from CLG's side is CLG had the first move. They took the recalls first, getting Hooks to roam over towards that top side. It didn't really seem like they had the coordination, though. I mean, Tenacity was extended past the halfway point. Hooks didn't go for the gank on the top side and make it a 3-man. They just dedicated to the 2-man, and Hooks ends up wasting his time, headed back towards the bot side. Now, 100 Thieves Academy are the ones grabbing the Drake.
That's always nice. The Ocean Dragon makes even trades, winning trades, and slightly losing trades, even trades, just because of the extra sustain that you do have. But now the lanes are even, and Kenvi going to be solo invading. We're just going to get a smite fight for this one, I'm pretty sure.
You got priority in the mid lane, you got priority in the bot lane, so if they want to contest this, they do have a fighting chance, and Kenvi will be able to take that blue buff for himself.
That's what we were looking at, right? We're seeing another opportunity of tempo being traded for gold and experience. Because Katsuri and Hooks had first move, they were able to move over, but they gave up a couple of minutes to do so, and now I don't know if they want to take this fight. It is a 2v3, even with Keel on the side. He doesn't yet have access to ultimate.
This would be a very, very risky one to take, and not going to go through with it. Just going to go back to static lanes. But overall, 8 minutes in, we're in a rather neutral game. We do see damage going all over the Rift, but no one really being claimed as a kill. The gold is dead even. This game is off to a very slow start, to say the least.
Expect it'll stay that way for at least a couple of minutes until the next dragon comes up, so that'll be in about 3-4 minutes at this point. But both teams are just kind of backing away. Oh, yep, just kind of a little bit of a poke. But I do want to point out a couple small things right now while we're chilling out. We have seen that the tempo advantage that Luger and Poom were able to build up has resulted in a pretty significant vision advantage in the bottom half of the map. They would know if anybody was down here, and now because they're able to get priority in the mid lane, because Tenacity was able to shove out the top lane, they're first to start hitting this Rift Herald, and they haven't really rotated that much for it. Poom is here as it's dying, just to make sure that CLG can't go for any kind of contest.
And CLG were trying to contest. You saw Hooks roaming towards the Rift Herald. The moment it died, he turns around and says, well, that was a waste of time. And I mean, that's 100 Thieves right now. They do have the advantage on how fast they're making plays on this map, how fast they're going after neutral objectives. They're not going to get kills. They're going to slowly bleed out CLG.
The one place where CLG isn't bleeding out, we touched on this a little bit previously, is Katsuri. Not going to get trapped there. That could have been a dead deal if they actually do land that. Hold on, it might still be.
Able to get the winner's bite. Now trying to follow it up with the stun. Able to find it. Exhaust goes out. Luger, exhausted, will put out the zap. Gets it onto Hooks. A lot of damage onto Hooks. The rocket will not find its mark. The burn is there, but the kill not to be found. 100 Thieves will not get first blood, but a very dominant display in that 2v2.
Wow, that was really impressive coming out from Luger, knowing he just needed one more auto attack in order to get the stun, and it forces a pretty desperate situation coming out from Hooks and Katsuri. And now the Ziggs lane that we always look at as a team that we want to start getting plates for themselves, are going to be giving over plates to the Jinx and Braum. This is a big upset for CLG. We're not expecting them to be giving this over at this point in time, and it really highlights the fact that the only current bright spot that they have is up in the top lane.
Oh, and here comes the jungle invade. Kenvi and Poom going right after kill, but the health bar is getting lower for Kenvi. He falls to sub 200, now trying to make his escape, gets pushed out. Kill instead going to go on the retreat. Kenvi, by the skin of his teeth, stays alive.
Oh, okay. Well, you do have to play smart, even when you are getting in this kind of lead. It does mean that Kenvi's going to back away, but they're also going to be dropping this Rift Herald in the bottom side of the map, and it will pick up a couple more plates. They're investing very heavily into Luger right now, and it means that we know that they are expecting to have this game go pretty late, as they are going to crash this, pick up 2-3 plates, and that just means that Katsuri and Hooks are going to have to be very careful of impending dives.
This is a huge disaster for CLG right now. Even though there's no kills on the map, so much gold is being funneled onto Luger. And Joshi, we know how Jinx looks in the late game as the Death Rocket comes out. Doesn't find Katsuri, but Luger, he's making his presence felt, man.
He really is, and this isn't even when we think of him as being at his strongest. Like, he's been a solid laner throughout all of spring and into summer, but this kind of dominance is not something we were expecting going up against Katsuri and Hooks. And you're seeing they're kind of just chilling around, trying to make sure that they are keeping Katsuri and Hooks and preventing them from roaming around. Wait, Luger is still, he has to be like so close to an item at this point. He's staying for another wave.
Yeah, he's canceled so many backs. I was seeing on the mini-map as well, while trying to cancel the backs of 100 Thieves at the same time. Excuse me, CLG at the same time. So
you have to stay too. If I'm staying, you're staying.
I want to see his gold. I want to see his... Okay, he's taking the back now. Let's see what purchase he's actually going to pick up.
Gale Force, Kraken Slayer. I feel like Gale Force might be a little bit better this game due to the fact that Wukong is there, that Ziggs is going to be throwing the bomb. He doesn't actually quite have the item completion.
No way.
I thought for sure he was staying for an entire item, but instead
I thought that's
he's
what the
going to
stall
come
was
out.
for.
Yeah, with all of the items, maybe he just wanted to do the one extra component, because we do have another dragon that's on the map, and it is going to be an opportunity for them to fight, where if he just has the difference between having a pickaxe and not having a pickaxe could be getting that reset as we look at this cloud dragon.
They don't discount those crit cloaks, but here comes the engage. Genvi able to pull kill right in and destroy him. That was so fast in the blink of an eye. 100 Thieves delete kill and set up for Drake.
Wow, they knew he didn't have access to the ultimate. They knew he was going to be a little bit weaker, but we got a teleport coming in from Tien. They want to fight for this.
I don't know about this one. Here come the traps, able to stall at the end a little bit. At the end, trying to get closer so he can get the Cyclone, but can't get into position. Tenacity, however, now gets free reign on that top side.
Yeah, I don't think 100 Thieves feel a need to actually take this dragon. Obviously, they want it, but they don't need it. They're just going to be using this in order to shore up the one place where they were having a little bit of trouble. Tenacity's Viego was behind against Tien's Wukong, but now as he's getting an extra plate, an extra wave, they're going to be having to pull members of CLG right back on up in order to make sure they don't lose more, and this gives 100 Thieves an opportunity to just go right on back to the dragon.
Can we just see how fast this kill was? Because I blunked for a second, and he was gone. Actually, we can't see it because I'll screw the replay for now. I am a little bit curious about something. I saw Luger use a super mega death rocket on nothing. I believe he was using it to try and scout out where heal was going.
Oh, really? I didn't notice that. Where'd he throw it?
He threw it right through the blue side jungle of CLG. And no one was there. No one was low as well.
Interesting. I mean, that's something that you kind of see sometimes with like Ezreal's, right? They just throw out the true shot barrage. Yeah, just like, you know, see if somebody's there. It's like a high investment hawk shot, but if you don't need it before the next time it's going to come off cooldown, like, why not? Just like, oh, maybe you get a camp, right? Maybe you steal the wolves because you hit them with the super mega death rocket. So we'll see what goes on as we do have the first turret go down. They're now rotating the top half of the map as the second Rift Herald is getting close to spawning, and they have another turret to take up here.
So CLG stealing away blue, setting up for that Rift Herald you were mentioning, but 100 Thieves are responding. They're sending all 5 members to come deal with this. We're going to have a team fight 14 minutes in, it looks like.
Okay, we got a couple of extra mythics.
Here comes the knockup. Depth charge goes out. Lots of damage to go through. Getting pulled right back in by Genvi.
There's a reset.
As 100 Thieves begin the re-engage. They're going to chase down CLG. Finding 2 kills thus far. Waiting for that Cyclone to go off. Tenacity not willing to pull the trigger. They're happy grabbing Tien. They're happy grabbing hooks. And they're going to be happy grabbing the Rift Herald.
That's going to be a pretty big opportunity, right? They had a couple of extra mythics come through, and even though you were fighting in choke against RJS on the Victor and Katsuya on the Ziggs, it's not going to be enough. You just have too many stats in your back pocket to play with, and this is going to be a really tough spot. This is why we were asking, are CLG going to be able to build up enough of a reserve in order to not get run over against this crazy composition that 100 Thieves have brought for themselves?
Ooh, it's going to be very, very difficult, especially at this stage of the game. The gold is starting to add up. A lot of that funneled onto Luger. Now your mid-game spikers are going to come online. Luger is going to come online even faster. Doesn't need to get to that late-game state. It's a scary situation for CLG to try and figure out how to deal.
So we did identify a couple places where I like their composition, right? They have a little bit more engage in the fact that they have hooks on this Nautilus. They can just point at somebody and say, hey, I'm going to press R with Nautilus, and then I'm going to press R with Ziggs, and you are guaranteed to take about 1,000 damage. So they don't need to do a whole lot more in order to push either Ryoma or Luger out of a fight. But after that, that's so much committal onto one character that they'll need to have enough damage left over to actually take down this front line, and if Tenacity gets one reset, if Luger gets one reset, suddenly 100 Thieves are going to be rocking ahead in the fight.
It's a snowball composition, and 100 Thieves are looking to snowball right through the mid lane now as they try and take out these waves, try and push away Katsuri, but it is a Ziggs that's holding the line. One of the best wave players in League of Legends is Tien, throwing up the Cyclone over on the top side, trying to get more damage onto Ryoma. Ryoma has to flash. Now Tenacity able to show up to the fight, wants to grab the kill. It will be secured by Ryoma instead. 100 Thieves respond faster.
Read like a book. They knew exactly what they wanted to try and do, and it does mean they pick up an extra kill. We see a bit of a scuffle here in the mid lane. I don't think we're going to see anything further come of that, but it is going to be giving more alone time to Nasty up here in the top lane. They pick up a turret, and I think RGS had to have been freezing the wave previously because it has not even impacted the bottom turret. 100 Thieves were expecting to make plays, but CLG were not, and this is going to be giving CLG another thing that they're going to have to climb out of.
5K separating CLG from 100 Thieves right now. CLG try and posture up towards the mid lane to defend this, but it almost looks like they're just on the defense, and that's basically it. They're not really making proactive plays for their own benefit at this stage of the game. Excuse me, getting a little bit gassy right now. But yeah, it's defense mode.
A little bit of what?
It is defense mode for CLG. A little gassy right now.
Alright, that's what I thought you said, but I wasn't sure. I was like, was that a hiccup? You know, you drinking too much soda? But we'll see how the rest of this game does end up shaking out. Too much coffee? I feel that. Got to get that caffeine in order to do some good casting, but we do have another dragon spawning in less than a minute, and crucially, we said that CLG don't mind if they're second to a lot of these objectives. They have enough tools, but they do need to be there in force at the right time. Tien will have to use a teleport in order to be here if they want to try and contest this dragon, and as we are on an Infernal Dragon, you do not want to give that over to 100 Thieves. Everybody is going to be building offensive stacks, and they're going to get priority in the mid lane. They have tempo there. They get some big impact on the mid lane, and I worry that CLG at this point are too late. I think 100 Thieves can just burn the objective and leave.
100 Thieves had a beautiful setup, putting the Rift Herald in the mid lane to try and pull off as many CLG members as possible. But Tien does have the flank, he does have the Cyclone, and here he goes, looking for the engage. It's going to be CLG. They're able to take down a lot of 100 Thieves, and now they're continuing. Just the ADCs remain now on the run as CLG find the team fight win.
That was so weird. I'll talk about that more after we get a replay, Eric, but I did not like that one bit. They are going to be getting an opportunity to pick up this dragon for CLG, but it is going to be traded back. I like the fact that 100 Thieves, even though they recognize they lost the fight, they're going to try and get something. They recognize all of the members of CLG are here. They're going to be grabbing the red buff and some top lane farm, but it is a really odd situation where they had control of the area and they chose to give it all right back. So this game, I don't want to say it's even yet because it's not. We still see a 4,000 or 5,000 gold lead coming out for 100 Thieves, but that was a big opportunity where they definitely could have played it a little cleaner.
I mean, AoE. That's basically it right there. At the end brings the AoE.
Here we go. Okay.
See the same thing for the rest of CLG.
Yeah, normally when you're at the objective first, you're going to be the one who forces the opponent to come into your AoE. You force them to fight in your choke. But here, 100 Thieves, they have a bunch of melee champions. They say, nah, we think we're strong enough. We're just going to dive into their choke. They have to recognize that they're going up against Victor and Ziggs, two of the most dominant AoE mages in the game. They also have this Wukong who's going to be crowd controlling them in all of this AoE, and it's just the kind of fight where you kind of scratch your head and ask, why did you do that? Like, why are you trying to dive through the one place where CLG can win a fight?
Yeah, definitely a misstep there for 100 Thieves. They still have a strong lead, and they still have their conditions being met thus far, so it's not going to be the biggest loss, but can't afford that many hiccups to CLG. They are really good at taking these small increments and running with them if you give them an opportunity.
Yeah, I was really excited for 100 Thieves, and to be honest, I'm still excited for this version of 100 Thieves. That is the first, real mistake they have made this game, and I think if they recognize, what they did wrong there, this is still something they should be able to close out relatively cleanly, but it does put their Infernal Soul timer back an extra 5 minutes, and it means that they have to be a little bit more wary of the damage CLG will be putting out. But as they start rotating people around the map, we are past the 20-minute mark, and I did a test on this recently, Eric. In order to get from bottom lane to Baron, it takes about 35 seconds with 400 movement speed. So it is something where 100 Thieves, until they have the teleport tenacity back up, do need to be very careful. The CLG can do it reasonably quickly with double Divine Sunder, Victor, and Ziggs.
Hey man, it goes the other way around too. Can't forget the Jinx and the Lucian are very, very quick when it comes to taking Baron, so CLG have to stay vigilant as well.
We'll see if they can do that. I mean, 100 Thieves do need to take control of this. They do have opportunities to get a little bit more vision control now that CLG have gone in, looked at all the visions like, oh, okay. We know that they're not there, but now the question is going to be, how are these teams going to play around it? Who's going to get the vision control, and who's going to be daring the other team to walk through chokes in order to get the favorable fights?
We'll have to see. 22 minutes into this game, 100 Thieves are still holding their footing, still being very dominant. A 4K separating these teams. CLGA able to take that last team fight win, but the rest of the game has been very, very handily 100 Thieves. They look to establish their mark on the Rift, getting a lot more wards towards the Baron side now, as that looks to be their next point of play.
We're also moving into a spot, Eric, where it's not just going to, it doesn't have to be entirely around the Baron. The split push is going to be coming online. Wukong had a good time up against Viego early on in the game, but now that is going to be starting to change as 2 items are already completed on the Ruined King, and he's going to have an opportunity to push in the bottom lane with a lot of sustain that Tien just will not have access to, and that will be giving them the freedom on 100 Thieves to just kind of stall this out. They don't need to be hitting the Baron, they just need to make sure that CLG doesn't.
Kind of like a reverse tug-of-war going on in the top lane. See Ryoma go up, clear the minions, then RJS, my turn to go up and clear the minions, and just back and forth, waiting for one side to try and make a misstep, but it is giving RJS a lot of time to free farm. It's giving CLG a lot of time to breathe and try and establish themselves on the Rift, while 100 Thieves, they're the ones pressured to continue making these plays as long as they can set it up properly and not walk into an AoE fiesta like we saw in the last fight. Dragon is spawning quite soon, so wait and see if 100 Thieves did fix their last mistake.
I think the big thing now is they have a little bit deeper vision as we start looking at this next dragon than they did in the previous fight. And you saw Kenby really wanted to go in and, you know, lock down multiple members, but you do have to respect the fact that there is a pretty big front line on the side of CLG. If you can find the flank, it can typically be successful, but it will be difficult if you just try and go directly into them. And this time, he might have an opportunity to get onto Katsu.
You're talking about the flank.
There it is! There it is!
In and grabs 3. So much damage coming through from 100 Thieves. RJS hooks fed to the wolves. 100 Thieves win the team fight, and they're going to look to get so much more. They're splitting off squads for Drake. They're splitting off squads for Baron.
That's what we like to see, Kenby. Imagine a team of Kenby, and Kenby. Just like watching that, he understood what he did wrong the first time. He shifted the script, and now they're going to be hitting the Baron, and he also is going to have a potential flank now as we see Tenacity coming in behind Tanny Teal.
Now there's the Cyclone being used. Wasn't available last team fight, now able to get the shutdown onto Ryoma. 1 kill picked up for CLG. Health bar is getting low for 100 Thieves. Luger, half health, Pume even lower. Diving in once again is going to be Kenby. He goes after Thien. Thien getting stunned up thanks to the winner's bite. 1 more rocket to go through, but Thien stays alive. A close skirmish, only Ryoma falls, but no Baron, no Drake picked up by 100 Thieves.
Oh no, this is rough. They tried to pick up both, but they forgot how powerful CLG was when they are actually able to establish these battle lines, and it is going to be meaning that a second dragon going over to CLG. 100 Thieves won the fight, but they're not getting anything off of it and after the situation. So we'll see how much this comes back to hurt them. They still should be winning a lot of these fights, but you would typically be expecting that they would be doing it with an extra, an extra little bit of AD and AP after picking up the dragon.
Oh, they found a straggler.
Well,
Katsuri
that works.
In the mid lane too long.
Yeah. Wow, that was not what I was expecting, but it is going to result in the fact that Katsuri is dead, but they're going to be backing away Luger. He says, I don't want to be hitting this Baron right now. Oh, just kidding. He has teleport. Eric, it's coming back into play once again. They don't need him to be there on site. He can just back away and pick up an Infinity.
And this is so grim for CLG now because Katsuri brings a lot of the AoE damage needed to win these team fights as Hook tries to flash away. The calling calls him down. The rest of CLG trying to retreat. Jumping in is going to be Thien with the Cyclone. He gets a lot of damage. Almost going to take down Luger. Tenacity will find a kill, but Thien, not long for this world, finally goes down. RJS able to stay alive. It's going to be a 2-for-3 exchange in favor of 100 Thieves as they fight tooth and nail to bring down CLG.
Alright, these fights are starting to get rather chaotic, Eric. You're seeing that people are peeling off and they're not necessarily going for battle lines. And we thought this was going to be favoring 100 Thieves really heavily, but CLG able to fight back despite such a large gold deficit and the fact that they were down an entire person in that last fight. So 100 Thieves not able to pick up the Baron during this last couple of minutes, and now they're going to have to be looking for opportunities to find more catches like Kenvi just did onto Katsuri.
And as rough as that fight was, I do got to give some props to Thien in that last one, because he was able to get the Cyclone off onto the backline and isolate Luger, eventually taking him down, which gave CLG enough breathing room to at least walk away from that. But now 100 Thieves, time to teleport off to the Baron. They're going for the take once again. AK health remains. CLG trying to respond as fast as possible. They got no vision for the time being. Getting closer and closer. 5 members stand there at the Baron, and Baron will be taken. 100 Thieves able to grab it. They're not done, though. They'll grab hooks as well.
That was so fast. They have effectively triple marksman, right? When Tenacity is playing the Viego and has access to that passive, they're going to be able to back away, and CLG just were not ready for this. I mean, they're just able to take this down super quickly. This is the previous Baron, and they actually fought over it, right? Remember that Ziggs was dead for this, and they were able to take down Hook. But then we see, like, a big problem.
Yeah.
They don't know, are they going to be going forward? Are they going to, like, be going aggressive through the choke? Tenacity's the only one who actually makes it through the gravity field, and so he isolates himself, and Tien is strong enough to find a kill 1v4 on the other side of the fight. So ultimately, we see a similar thing where 100 Thieves are too willing to go through these chokes, but in the end of the day, they are still out-macroing CLG, even if they aren't necessarily taking all of the right fights.
Some wild fights going off here. I really do like how determined Thien was to just stay back there and take down Luger, and honestly, that's what's going to be needed at this stage of the game. As we get closer and closer to that 30-minute mark, Luger is only getting stronger. He's only scaling more. He has to be focused down for CLG to find their success. But it's kind of a double-edged sword as well. You need to protect players like RJS and Katsuri.
And I really love this itemization that's coming out from Tien as well in this spot, right? The active on the Randuins, if you're able to catch people, not only does it slow them for quite a bit, but it cuts everybody who's in physical damage auto attacker. It cuts your damage by a full 21%, based on the fact that it reduces your crit, and it also reduces the amount of damage you're just doing overall. So it's going to be really effective against not only the double marksman in Ryoma and Luger, but also very effective up against Tenacity. So if he can cut 3 members' damage by about 20% every single time he goes in, that's going to be huge. It's going to give CLG the extra couple of seconds necessary for another round of spells to come off of both of their instances.
Now 100 Thieves going for the engage onto Thien. Thien will be able to use the clone to get away. 100 Thieves, they're applying pressure in every single lane they can. You see it in the top side with Ryoma. You see it in the mid lane with Luger all by his lonesome. The rest of 100 Thieves focusing down this bot turret. They're going to be able to grab it with ease and then rotate over to the mid lane inner.
Okay, they're a little bit slow on the rotate. We see that Kenvi and Hooks are already in the mid lane, but they don't have any damage dealers with them. Hooks, this is a bluff, but it doesn't look like 100 Thieves knows that. Kenvi's in the base!
Yeah, and here comes Thien on the flank. He's trying to find a kill, but Hooks is going to go down really early. Thien can't find his way in. Kill, oh so low. Goodbye he go. Tenacity will grab
Luger.
that kill.
Luger.
And Thien, so by himself, uses the Cyclone, gets the damage onto Luger, but it's not going to happen this time. Luger slays Thien. And with only Kenvi going down, there's 2 members left. It is some great wave clear, but it is also some very squishy members to get engaged on by CLG.
God, I love the way Luger played that the entire time. He knew he didn't need to go in. He didn't need to actually get the damage down. He just needed to threaten the damage in order to keep Tien involved. They're going to be able to pick up the inhibitor because of it and back away, grab the entire top side of the map, the bottom side of the map, and they're going to be picking up this dragon, finally putting themselves 1 away from the Infernal Soul. So finally, 100 Thieves, despite the fact that that fight was a little bit chaotic and looked unplanned, coming out on top at the end of the day, continuing to expand their gold lead and firmly in control of this game.
Woo, right out of the bush comes Hooks. That was a horror movie right there, but they will get the kill onto Poom. I didn't even see that one come, and it is some breathing room for CLG nonetheless.
It is, and there's no Baron that they're peeling off of the support at this point, and it has been long gone, but it is going to be buying themselves a little bit more time for this inhibitor to respawn, so good heads-up play from CLG. Now the question is, how are they going to be able to play the rest of this, because oh my god, okay, we didn't really get to see this last time around, but Kenby now finds himself stuck inside the base and just gets run down by RJS.
Oh.
Alright, that's pretty funny.
Pretty fast. Actually, he tries to flip it around. I appreciate the effort. It's okay. For a moment there, I was like, did I misremember this? Did he actually get the 1v1? But no, RJS will get the play. It was a good attempt from Kenby. Hats off to him.
I feel like he probably played that, attempt to turn about as well as he could have. Unfortunately, it's just, you made the mistake of trying to dive the Ziggs while he still had the satchel charge previously. But ultimately, it's okay, dude. You got so much else on the map. They picked up another turret in the top side. They're going to be able to back away, and it looks like we're probably getting close to time. I'm going to guess we got about a minute left on the Baron, since I can't see with the fact that, they have less than a minute left for the Baron to actually spawn. With this much control of the top side of the map, it's going to be very difficult for CLG to walk through every single one of these chokes.
The problem I'm kind of seeing with CLG, at least in this matchup, is they're not that good at calling audibles on the fly. Like, when they commit to an engage, that is their plan, and that is what they're going through with. We kind of saw it with the teleport flank coming out of BN and the rest of the team trying to follow up. They were following up into certain demise, and the same thing with BN at that point. You got to get a little bit flexible with these plays sometimes, and you got to know when it's just not going to happen.
That's the problem with their composition, right? You just have this really big, bulky, and ungainly team almost that does the one thing. It's like Scion, right? Just like, you just get this idea, you get the ball
Scion,
rolling and
smash.
Me Scion, we go forward, me go this way. And that's kind of what CLG does, right? Just like their composition, once you've committed to direction, it is very hard to turn that. But here we see 100 Thieves are going to be hitting us again, and we saw how quickly they're able to actually take it down.
See it, 4K remains on the Baron over the wall. Here comes Kill. He's trying to get the steal. He won't get it. Instead, Luger will claim it. Kenby will claim kill. Another one going over, but there's the Chaos Storm. Out comes the bomb. Kenby is going to be able to stay alive. 100 Thieves get the Baron, but they're not done. The calling used on the top lane. 2 teleports going to come out, considering RJS joined the fray. Depth charge over the wall. Will Ryoma be able to get out? Comes RJS to finish off the job and get the shutdown. CLG are doing their best to try and make the best of a bad situation. Now Tenacity forced the flash away. Here comes Poom. Puts out the Glacial Fissure. Only knocks up 2. Able to get the disengage, though. Now RJS on the lines. Tries to find Poom. Will put out the laser once again. The hook's not going to land. And here comes Kenby. A man on a mission. Deletes RJS from the rift. Kenby goes on to hooks now as the rest of 100 Thieves are going to chase down Thien, are going to chase down Katsuri. Only kill on the defense. 100 Thieves, they got this in their pocket.
They're going to be able to pick it up, and man, did you just watch the way that they were able to play the geography of that fight? They recognize they're playing in their opponent's choke point. They're going into their opponent's canyon, but this time they're like, maybe we can back out, force you to go through our choke, and that's where Kenby is able to pound 100 Thieves. They figured it out. They're able to show so much growth even over the course of a single game, and this is why this team has been looking so good. Currently 14-3 in games and looking to continue their dominance throughout all of Academy.
That was some really, really good stuff coming out of 100 Thieves. We saw that they had a plan and that they were trying to execute it as best as they can. We did see some hiccups, though, some kinks in the armor that CLG might be able to exploit. Yeah, we saw that one team fight breakthrough where CLG were just like, well, let's use all our AoEs in the same spot, and, they get a team fight win. Even in that last fight, you saw that CLG were trying to make the best of a bad situation, hunting down whoever they could from 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves were just too strong at that point of the game, though, and were able to clean up the rest of that. But it does show light for CLG. It does show why these are the comeback kids.
We'll see how well they're going to be able to play. I can't wait to see what they're going to be able to do in Game 2, as they are going to have to be adapting the draft. But we'll have to do that after this short break. We'll be back in a couple of minutes with a lot more action between CLG and 100 Thieves. Don't go anywhere.